Oh,
Darling!
darling. It took a while.
We got there.
I'm
How
so
are
sorry.
you?
I'm 5 minutes late because I've been trying to push every single button. There is no Janette.
No, do you know what? Every single time that I do a live, the same thing. Oh, crap. Now my phone's gone funny. Hold on. Every time I do a live, something happens as well. It's like a running joke now that every time I go on my Instagram, I've got some kind of technical difficulty.
Yeah, well, join my technical, phobia club, darling.
No, I'm with you. Craig, look, I dressed up for you today.
I love you for that. Oh my God, I love that.
Isn't it amazing?
I've got some cushions.
And I've got, look at my drink.
I love your drink. I've got mine, darling, as well.
Oh,
Bit of glitter,
cheers.
bit of Savvy Bee. Cheers, my darling.
What is it?
Savvy Bee.
Savvy Bee. Oh, yes, like.
My favourite, you know that.
How is isolation? Are you home?
I'm back home from Australia, which is good. And I had to fly out a lot earlier, literally 2 weeks earlier, because they were closing all the flights because I was doing Dance with the Stars, as you know them.
Yeah.
And they were closing all the flights on the 31st, so I had to leave on the 26th. And then they decided to bring the final forward, and we did the final at the semi-final chapter, really.
Yes, I saw that. Did you guys have an audience in the studio when you did it?
No, there was no audience for the final 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, actually. Because that was the first thing they did, was cut the audience. It was very strange because I've never done that before. You know, I had to boo myself.
I give you a 3.
Yeah, I was doing that. It was hilarious. But no, we had some crew. We had about 10 crew sitting in, clapping.
Did they at least clap?
Yeah, they clapped. Yeah.
That's incredible.
It was actually really good fun. It was good.
Do you enjoy doing the Australian one? Is it very different or is it very similar? What's the difference between the two? English.
Well, it's actually quite different. You can actually say what you like. You're actually allowed to swear.
God. I hate to wonder what you would
say. It was brilliant. And we're so restricted on the BBC One show, only because, you know, it's a real family audience, and so is the Australian one. But Australians have a different sense of humour. You know, they can say words like bloody, and they can say all sorts of things that are normally in our vocabulary over here. So that was sort of freeing in a way. And they have such an outgoing attitude. It was really great. And the Australian dancers were absolutely fantastic. I really loved it. And it was great in this present day and age, obviously, to be able to bring entertainment to the masses as well, you know, and especially when everyone's stuck at home. It was wonderful. We couldn't have any more than 300 crew and team. So that was quite difficult. We have to do our own makeup and hair and things like that.
Obviously. But you're fabulous at that, so you were okay.
You know, darling, please. I was a hairdresser in a past life, bizarrely.
So you enjoy doing it then? It's a nice thing for you to do.
Yeah, it's a really great gig. The only thing that was difficult was leaving so early, because I had a week planned with my family. I had they're my shutters closing. Sorry, darling, they're automatic. It's the whole conservative version.
How is your mom? Is your mom okay with everything in the corona?
Yeah, she's great, actually. We managed to see her and keep a 4-meter distance around the house, which was no mean feat, I've got to say. But she's really well and fantastic. I mean, she's just lonely, I think. Thank goodness for FaceTime. She can work that, you know, on her iPad, which is great. And it's a way that we can all communicate with her, which is fantastic. Because she lives in Ballarat, which is a country town in the middle of Victoria, Australia, of course, and she's there by herself. So it's quite difficult for her. So my family have been making trips from Melbourne, which is about an hour and a half by car, up to drop her, you know, food parcels and things like that off. So, and my sister took a sort of roast up tour, which was really nice as well. But they had to park, you know, outside the house, and they had a camper van, so they sat there with their chairs, and Mum sat on the balcony with her chair waving. It was hilarious. But I mean, the beauty about FaceTime and the communication now, it's you know, you can sort of keep up and keep busy
You know,
with it.
and it's something, there's something different about not, you know, back in the day it was just letters and phone calls. Now being able to see their faces is so nice because you feel
Yeah.
like you've got that time with them that you
Oh,
probably had before.
completely. So, how's your lockdown going, my love?
Well, I am loving my lockdown, if I'm honest, because
Yeah, me too.
Alias and I, as you know, we moved into our flat about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago.
Yeah.
And last year we did tour. We did Strictly Live tour. We did our tour. Alias did Here Come the Boys. I worked and we did the cruise ships, and then we went straight into Strictly, and then we went straight into the Strictly Live tour again. So I've just not been home to
Yeah.
kind of actually move in. So I've been buying furniture. I've been organizing the drawers, organizing the closet.
It's fabulous, isn't it? Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what I did. As soon as I got home, I did my wardrobe because I'd been, like yourself, just throwing things in a suitcase, living out of a suitcase. And then I came home and it was a complete and absolute tip. So now it took me the best part of 2 days to do my wardrobe.
I was going to say, how long? Because you must have the most incredible wardrobe. I mean, you've got
I
so
have
much
a huge,
clothes.
I do have a huge walk-in one, and I have a lot of shoes, sparkle shoes and stuff. And I've had to overtake, because I have a 7-bedroom house, so I've had to take 3 other bedrooms for, like, yeah, I've had to use the spare bedrooms.
Oh,
But I do, what I do is that if I've worn it, I do sign it, and then I send it, and hopefully, you know, to a charity, and they can auction it off. So that's quite good in a way.
Yeah, I saw online that you also donate for charity. If people want to buy your voice as a ringtone.
Oh yeah.
They can
Well,
buy
anything
it.
to raise money, darling. I mean, yeah, you can have a ringtone that says "absolute disaster," darling, and fabulous, all of that, amazing,
Oh
a
my gosh.
complete nightmare.
Can anybody go and get it? Anybody on your, is it on your website?
Yeah, it's on the website. You can just download it, and you're just asked to make a donation. It can be any amount, you know, to the Royal Osteoporosis Society, which is great, you know. And I think it's really good.
See if I get it for Aliash and just surprise him, just put it on his phone.
Oh, he'd hate that, darling. No, he'd hate
that.
He would hate that.
Like, Greg?
He hates my voice at the best of times, I'm sure.
No. So Greg, I just want to go. I mean, I was looking up. I know everything you've done, but before we chatted, I kind of like refreshed my mind to see everything. You have literally, when I went to search your information, it said choreographer, director, dancer, judge, actor, singer, conductor. It was like a list of everything you've done. I mean, if we start with probably what I think is probably your favorite is the theater work. Do you enjoy the theater work mostly, you would say? I mean, I know you love being on television as well, doing the judging, but theater's where you live, isn't it?
That's how I grew up, really, and that's my passion, and that's my love, and that's not very much of a secret because I do tend to put lots of shows on, but it's great, and I just love that. I think without that, I would be lost. You know, I really love it. I mean, at the moment, it's really miserable because, of course, all the theatres have closed down. We're all in the same boat, of course. You know, we're entertained in the entertainment industry, and that's really, really difficult. But it is my biggest passion. Apart from that, I love judging as well. I mean, I get to mix with extraordinary dancers like yourself, darling. You are one of my favourites in the entire world, just so you know. I do love a side second split. You know that.
Like that. We did it this year on tour.
You're
like, oh, that Janette, that split.
I so want to do that.
You wish you could try and do it with one of the boys.
Yeah, I don't know who's butch enough and big enough to lift a, you know, a 15-stone heifer, darling. Like me.
But your feet are going to be like this. You're going to have the perfect turnout as well.
Yeah, perfect turnout. Double hip replacements. It might go bad.
And would you say, because there was a question that came up with somebody when I asked him about questions for you, and one which was interesting, have you had a favorite character that you've played in theater?
Yeah, there is one. I think it has to go, the prize has to really go to Miss Hannigan. When I was playing her in Annie.
Amazing.
I loved it because you get to sing, you get to dance, you get to act. And I love her character. I love the fact that she is a drunk, a lost sort of woman who's hopeless and helpless, but you know, driving herself. She's desperate for a man, and she'll try anything, you know. And that was just fun. It's always fun to play the villains. Definitely. That's why I love Panto so much. And I mean, when I first joined Panto, which was over 10 years ago now, 12 years ago, I really didn't respect it at all. And as soon as I did my first Panto, I had a newfound love and respect for the artists that actually do that, because it's really difficult. It is. You are all singing, all dancing, all acting, you know, and you have to have great
you have to do, I mean, the schedule for pantomime especially is quite gruesome. Sometimes you've got triple show days. I mean, it's a pretty gruesome schedule. And I mean, you've played like the Wicked Queen, you've played the Stepmother, you've played Captain Hook, loads of really great panto characters.
Yeah, they're really fantastic. They're all great, you know. But what I love, I mean, the beauty about panto is you can come outside the box and you can be Craig Revel Horwood for a moment. You know, I can be myself for a moment. I can be that person and break what they call the fourth wall, which is when you're acting, it's speaking to the audience as yourself. And then you come back into character, which I really love. The difficulty, of course, with something like Annie is everyone knows every single line. You can't fluff it. You can't fake it. You have to maintain the dignity, of course, of the script.
It's a West End musical theatre show. It's proper. You did it. This is the Piccadilly Circus. Is that where you played?
Yeah, Piccadilly Circus. Yeah, it was absolutely fabulous. I loved it.
I did. I remember watching you in it because I had only ever really watched you as a judge on Strictly, and I'd seen you do bits of dancing on the Strictly Live tour and every now and then in group numbers on the show. But never heard you sing, never heard you sing, never heard you act. And I remember I sat down and I watched you that night, and I was almost like in tears because you are just phenomenal singer, phenomenal actor, and Miss Hannigan has to bust out a double pirouette, honey, in the middle of the
yeah, that's the worst bit.
I was blown away.
Yeah, but the beauty is if you fall out of that double pirouette, she's drunk. Yeah, I know. You can actually use that as an excuse. But no, it was great fun, a great challenge, and I look forward to doing it again. Actually, I think it'll crop up again, I'm sure.
Would you were you able to do any kind of pantomime? Well, you did do pantomime, didn't you? You played the Queen again, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs recently.
Yeah, that's my last time as her. I did her for quite a long time, only because it's a really difficult role because you're on stage literally the whole time. The only time I ever went off stage was just literally to change and then come back on again. And you know, as much as I love that, it's so much of a challenge. I really, and that's why I'm looking forward to doing this year down in Southampton as the wicked stepmother in Cinderella. Yeah, because that's, I know it's just a really lovely story as well. And she's not as evil. She's a lot more fun.
So we're going to see a nicer version of your wicked villain.
Yeah, it's a nicer version. And she's a frump, so I don't have to wear a corset. I don't have to be body beautiful.
Although
and that's...
when we got to the Strictly Live tour, I could tell you had been in a corset and dancing and singing. You were like, Janette, I feel amazing.
I know, but that weight can go back on quite easy. And especially now when I'm at home cooking for myself.
I was going to say, you love cooking, though. This is a big thing for you. You do love cooking. Are you doing lots of stuff at home now? Yeah,
a lot. I'm absolutely loving it. Trying new recipes. I mean, there's so much to do. I just can't. There's no way I could possibly get bored. I could fill 3 months, like, boom.
I know.
So quickly. And plus I do have a lovely pool and the weather's been gorgeous, so it has been, I'm very, very lucky to have bought the house when I did, because it's so nice, particularly now with the sunshine and being able to get out. Like a lot of other people, they can't get out of their flats and things like that. So I'm very lucky that I sold, you know, my Camden residence that you lived in, darling, that we loved. I mean, there was a roof terrace and that was beautiful. And it was south facing. There was no pool though.
No, but you do have such a beautiful home. So it is nice that you have all the outside space and the pool.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. And we've just, you know, I've invested in a gym as well. I've made one of the bedrooms a gym now.
Oh, did you?
So, yeah.
Are you using it?
Not yet. I've decided. I've just put everything in.
Not yet. Not yet.
I will be though, darling. I will be. I will be. I said to Jonathan, my partner, I said, on Monday, I'm going to start using the gym. Only because I wanted to take this time out, you know, and just go, right. Let's see where we are.
Ali Ash is doing like a social media detox. He's like just the kind of feels really disconnected from the world and is loving being home. And he's obsessed with this game Call of Duty. Oh God, you know, the
Is
game.
that, oh, one of those. Yeah. I know, Jonathan's into those. Although I'd rather be in the kitchen cooking, oddly.
Do you know what? I'm getting into cooking. You would be very proud of me. You know, I'm not a great cook. But I'm starting to have to do it now. So.
Well, I know you like a dial-up service. Because every time I used to come home, you'd be there chomping away in front of the TV on the floor, sat in second, darling, eating something that had just arrived at the door.
I loved it. Craig, but you not only perform in theater, you do a lot of choreography and a lot of directing, and there's an exciting one coming up for you. Fingers crossed, all goes well. It's still going forward. Strictly Ballroom.
Oh yes, Strictly Ballroom is going forward. However, it won't be this year. It's going to be, it has to be postponed until next year. I don't know whether the release has come out for that yet, but it will be. It is definitely going on, but we've had to postpone it a year, only because it's such a massive show. And of course, Kevin Clifton is going to be absolutely amazing. Yeah. He did the best audition I think I've seen in a long while, and he was great. So I'm so proud of him and so looking forward to working with him. So that's something really exciting. And I said we need to take this time to now make it absolutely incredible, you know, because we've got time on our hands, you know, to really work on it. Yeah, think about it instead of the big rush that you normally get, you know, where you're throwing things in and rehearsing and then auditioning. We can take our time to audition. Also, the one-man show I'm doing, which is All Balls and Glitter Tour. Well, that was meant to start on May the 22nd. I know. I'm sort of glad it's not. Only because it gives me a bit more time, because I literally had 2 weeks to learn it. And
it's a one-man show, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a long time. Yeah, it's 2 hours on stage by yourself. So it's quite a thing. But it's going to be amazing, because I'm going to get to sing all the songs that I absolutely love. And the people that haven't heard me sing before, they'll get to hear that as well.
Such a great. Well, are you filming? So you're recording a duets album, aren't you, with Rieta?
Yeah, with Rieta. We've done 4 out of the 12 for the album, which is great. We're meant to record in Australia the final 8. Tracks, and unfortunately the coronavirus hit, and Rieta couldn't get from New Zealand because they were in lockdown before Australia, and then we decided that we'll have to do it remotely. So I'm going to be in this time off recording the rest of the tracks, because she's going to lay all the drum tracks and lay all the bass and guitar.
You won't be able to actually do it together. You'll have to do it.
No. She'll have to do her bit, then I'll do my bit, then we'll get on FaceTime and say, well, what do you think? You know, and do notes. But you can do notes remotely. I mean, a lot of artists do that now, which is, you know,
it's
normal.
The way of the world now, anyway.
Yeah, Mariah Carey and Westlife, you can't tell me they went into a recording studio together. Not that my album is for that. My album has songs I love and songs,
I was just gonna say,
and
what
some
songs,
new stuff.
What kind of music?
Well, it's some new stuff that Rieta and I have written together, and we've decided just to be brave and sort of unleash it on the world and see what happens. You know, we don't expect it to go platinum. We just want it. We want to do it for a bit of fun, and also to entertain people. So that will happen, and that will come out hopefully for Christmas. And then of course I've got a novel that I'm writing. So
you're writing as well?
Well, I have the time, darling. You know, I'm here, you know, by my lonesome with Jonathan. You know, there's the two of us, and he likes doing his thing. And of course, you know, I just go up and type a few chapters here and there. It's great.
What is this? Is this a fictional novel, or what is it?
Yeah, it's fiction. I've done the trilogy of my life, and I figured that's sort of enough, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought, what about all the pages that weren't allowed to go in. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll write a story around those
So
actual
there's a
happenings.
little bit of truth, but no one will know what is and what isn't.
There's a lot of truth, darling. But that's the fun of it. But that's the fun of fiction. I mean, you draw on your own life, you draw on other people's lives, you draw on characters, and it's just so nice to be able to do something where I can express myself and be, you know, as outrageous as I can, you know, as I can, which I
Yeah.
love. And it's a really, they're heartwarming stories about dance and about people's struggle, you know, like mine was, you know, to find money to do dance classes, to find money to do this, to move around.
It's a real, I don't think people realize a dancer's life, you know. You started yourself as a dancer and then you became a choreographer and director and everything.
Yeah.
The dancing side, the dance side of our careers, I mean, I know how lucky I am to have Strictly Come Dancing, but that took time for me to achieve in my own dance career. The beginning, it was auditions and classes and lots of no's and putting your body through so much pain.
Yeah. It is. It's tough. It's a difficult life, but I mean, it's our passion and our drive that keeps us inspired and keeps us doing it. You know, and it was for very little money. You know, like when I joined Cats in 1989, probably before you were born.
No, I was already there.
Just got in there. I was on £220 a week. You know, I don't know how I survived on that, and we had to we had to find our own digs and survive on that, and it was a really difficult show to perform.
Yeah.
But I just remember dancing, you know, as in my life as being a lot of fun. I couldn't wait to keep doing it. But you know, your body, like when you're 55, it sort of that goes, and you don't have as much energy. Although you still have the passion. You still think you can do it.
Yeah. Well, you do. You did it.
Oh yeah, I do. But darling, you know, there is a limit to what I can do now after a double hip replacement and everything else that you know you sort of go through in life.
But you've also not only are you writing, we're doing and recording an album, preparing and directing a show to go on in the UK. I mean, but you've also worked in film. You worked in Paddington 2, and
I did the choreography on Paddington 2, which was great. I loved that because although you think, oh, great, a big major film, Paddington 2, I thought, oh, this would be great. And they said, oh, what do you want to do? And I said, well, obviously, you know, it's going to be set inside a prison. And then the director told me like the story about it, and then I had to come up with a concept of what we're going to do. And so I decided to get 300 extras, put them all in marigold gloves, feather dusters, buckets, all sorts of things. And we sort of went major sort of camp with it, and it was brilliant to be able to have that. And of course I thought that I would have a budget, you know, forever, and I was really surprised to find that I had to stick within a really limited budget. So you're always working around those corners, but that was such a great
remember you came to stay in London right after you had done that, and you walked in and you said to Ali Ash and I, this has been amazing. 300 people. I
loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was so much fun. Yeah. And it was just great. I mean, everyone was fantastic. And plus I could get some of the old boys that I knew from the Miss Saigon days and my dancing days when I was in shows like Crazy View, tap shows, because I wanted to use old tap dancers, you know, people that look like thugs, because they had to look like they were in prison for something. So they had to be sort of scary. But I just got all my old mates that have now changed, you know, course in life and changed body shapes completely.
Like, you come back and tap for me.
Yeah, and I said, would you mind being in a movie called Paddington 2, but you need to tap dance with umbrellas, darling. And they did, and it was absolutely fantastic. So that was great. And when I did Nativity 4, called Nativity Rocks, that was an amazing experience, that movie.
Yeah, that was your first on-screen debut, wasn't it? The first
it was. I mean, I look at it now and I think, oh, I could have changed that. Oh, I could have changed this. But I mean, it's only through experience, I think, you know, because I'm not used to seeing my face like in a huge movie screen. So anything you do has to be made a lot smaller. you know,
Of
with a
course.
great intent. But
I
it
think
was,
was Helen George in that with you?
yeah,
Wasn't she?
Helen George. I couldn't believe it.
She
I
came
know.
up to you and was like, "What score did you give me again?"
Yeah, no, I know. She made me do. She made me rejudge her.
Yeah, I know. She sent Ali Ash and I a video. She's like, "I found Craig and I
Yeah.
showed him the test."
Otherwise, she's going to ruin my career in the film industry as an actor.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah, it
incredible.
was
And
great.
now, another little bit of exciting news that happened a little bit ago. You have a Madame Tussauds Craig, darling, in the Blackpool.
A talking one.
Yeah,
The first ever talking one. Yeah,
Oh
talk.
my gosh. How long now? I remember you telling me that was a long process. How do they go about doing that? You said you had to stand for a long time or something.
Oh yeah, it was each session that we did was 4 hours, and I thought that I would go into. I did think it was going to be really modern, and I would walk into something where it scanned me, did a 360-degree scan, yeah, like the movies. But no, they had like calipers out. They were measuring between your eye pupil and your ear, everything. I had to get my teeth. I had to get my teeth from my dentist so they could be replicated. They had to be a mold of the teeth.
God.
They have to then check the color of your eye whites, your pupils, you know, around the colors, and it was just
like
skin
really
tone.
precisely.
Oh yeah, each hair, every little bit of grey
hair.
hair that I've got here, those little bits. There's a few more come through since Corona.
Corona didn't help the situation.
Yeah, but it was absolutely fantastic. It was long though, very, very long, and I did about 3 sessions.
When was it released? It wasn't too long ago, was it?
I think it was about 2 years ago. Oh no, it was when my mother was here, so 3 years ago now. It will be, yeah, this coming summer, 3 years ago.
Now, on Strictly Come Dancing recently, we're going to talk a little bit about Strictly now, because I got some questions from everybody. And
oh, great.
As you can imagine, there's lots of Strictly ones.
Yeah.
But I think one of my favorite stories ever that I've heard from you, and I think you should share it if you can, is how your audition process went for Strictly Come Dancing.
Oh my God.
You said 3 very, very interesting words.
Yeah. Yeah. I was doing a show at the time called The Beautiful and Damned, and that was my debut directing and choreographing in the West End, first ever. It was a bit of a bloodbath at the box office, mind you, but I was really into it. And it was on the final day of the studio where you do a run through for the producers, and that's where things change before you go into the theatre. And I was really, really anxious. I was het up, and the BBC phoned my agent Gavin and said, we'd like Craig to come in. I said, I haven't got time. I've literally got 1 hour. So we took a phone call, and they said, what would you say if this happened, and what would you say? And they liked the tonality of my voice, and then said, can you come up to the studio in your lunch break? I really didn't want to go, but I went. Gavin forced me. I said, it's for some show where they're getting celebrities to dance with professionals. And I said, it's impossible. No, it's impossible. I mean, most people start when they at the age of 3 to learn to dance. And I just went, that's going to be a car crash.
It's going to be
awful. A complete disaster. I said, not interested. Anyway, so I went up for my audition and screen test, I suppose it was, like 100 other choreographers, because they wanted different people from different walks of life. Of course, I'm from the theatre, I'm not from the ballroom and Latin world, as everyone knows. And I don't pretend to be either, and never have.
Yeah.
But they wanted, you know, obviously some artistic interpretation of what they saw. And I went in, and there was a pretend test, and there was a pretend, you know, a Brucey, there was pretend contestants and all of that, and I just had to sit in front of a camera, and I had a little monitor just over at the side here, and I'd take a look at the monitor. They gave me a notepad. I wrote down what I thought of it, and then they said, also, Craig, what did you think of that? I said, well, that woman, whoever she is, walking down the stairs, couldn't walk down the stairs, darling. When she got to the dance floor, it was even worse. And I said, whoever that boy is that's dancing with her, I said, is he a professional? Because I said, I've never seen a professional with both legs like that in all my life. And they said, oh, Craig, can you sum up the whole thing in in 3 words. I said, yes, darling. Dull, dull, dull. Because it was. And those 2 people turned out to be Brendan Cole and Natasha Kaplinsky, who went on to win Series 1.
Who won?
Yeah, they went on to win Series 1. But we talked about everyone really candidly, and I was in such a vile mood that I was just sort of trying to get it over with really quickly.
I love that.
And then I got the job, and then the first show was actually scripted.
Oh yeah,
which a lot of people don't know.
Different times.
Yeah, the first show was scripted. I think probably we didn't realise to set up character, I suppose, but it was all completely scripted from our tapes that we saw, and of course what we saw on the night. But the suggestion was, "Oh, Craig, do you think the first 3 words can be dull, dull, dull?" And I went, "Well, yeah." I said, "If it's the same as what I saw on the video, yeah, it will be," and it was. And of course, that's when I got booed the very first time.
And did you enjoy that first boo? Did you like it? Did you feel a sense of, "Ooh, I think I like this"?
No, I didn't. I thought, that's so unfair, actually, because I was just being honest.
Yeah.
You know, and just talking about what I really thought. And I don't know, it's just one of those things, isn't it? And because I was getting such adverse reaction from the audience, I was sat next to Brucey in Bruno's seat. And then the following week, on week 2, they decided to swap us over. So I was on the end because Brucey didn't know our names at the time. And he'd always go, Arlene. Or he'd start, like he was told to start from the end and work down. Yeah. And so that's what we did. So I ended up going first, so we'd get any negativity out of the way.
Yeah,
and then hopefully end on a positive with Bruno. Yeah, end on a high with Bruno. Although he never sits on his seat nowadays.
No, he's always falling. So I've got a question that came in for you. It's a hard one because you've been on the show from day 1, really.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite contestant?
Yeah, I do. Mark Ramprakash is one of my favorites.
Yes.
I'll tell you why. It's not because he's a brilliant dancer. It's because he was the first time that we had someone literally that was hopeless that went to win it. Win it really well. I mean, honestly, if you speak to Karen Hardy about it, he was absolutely useless up until like a Thursday. And then he'd do the rehearsal on the Friday, and then something would click on the Saturday, and he'd just get into it. And it was just, it was amazing. I loved him. I mean, there's lots of people I think have been amazing, but he's a standout.
He's a standout.
Obviously, Anne Widdecombe I loved as well, but in a very different way.
Love that lady. I was just gonna say, what about on the opposite spectrum? Somebody that you loved watching Mark get better, but is there somebody that you're like, oh gosh, they were on for way too long?
Yeah, there's a few of them. Quentin Wilson was one of them, and I named him Britain's worst dancer because he used to do a show, Britain's Worst Cars or whatever.
And you just swapped the name.
Yeah, I just thought, well, I'll retitle that, darling, because that wasn't good. Anne, of course, who I love dearly. I think she's absolutely fantastic, you know, and a great sport for actually coming on the show. And plus, I love the fact that she would give me mouth. She would always answer me back or say, Craig, don't bother. I'll give myself a 2 so you don't need to speak. You know, she was really good like that. Julian Clary was another one. You know, that was Handbags at Dawn. And, you know, it is amazing.
That list is bigger for you than the other.
Yeah. Well, it's incredible.
So it says here, this is what has been one of your proudest moments? Because you've had an amazing career. I think out of my whole career, getting a show, because I wanted to do the show so much. It was called Le Cage Folle. And it was on in 1985, and I was quite young, and I wanted to do it so badly, but didn't get into it. And I auditioned and auditioned. I even bought a pair of high heels to audition in and work in. I retrained. I didn't get it, so I decided I'd go back to class, and then I'd retrain because I wasn't getting
these jobs, and then suddenly the phone rang and said that I had it. And this is about a month after everyone else had got the job. So obviously they're waiting.
Yeah.
But it was my proudest sort of moment as a performer, because I had to understudy the three biggest Cajals, which are the three leading ladies, if you like, and understudy the origin of, or the guy, you know, the young guy that was the straight guy in the whole thing. So it was a huge challenge to play like a straight boy and be one of the girls, and also be Phaedra, the enigma, the most beautiful one, also Chantal, the one that had to sing, you know. So it was using absolutely every one of my skills.
Everything. I was going to say, that's a proper triple
threat. Yeah, bringing up to sort of quadruple in a way, because sometimes, you know, playing instruments, of course, is.
And what was the name of the show again?
La Cage aux Folles.
And was this in France, or was it played?
No. This is it's based on a movie, French movie, but it's been in the West End, and it's a love story between two men, and that very rarely, that was the first time that it ever happened on stage in a musical, and written by Jerry Herman, of course, and absolutely incredible show, and some fantastic songs and things. I Am What I Am is in it.
Oh yes, I love
what
that
I
song.
am. Yeah. So it's one of those musicals where I was playing a woman and a man, had to do really quick changes, and I think directorially, Sunset Boulevard was my favourite that I did in the West End. I just loved that. That was one of my favourite shows, and something that I was extremely proud of. It's just a shame no one came to see it. It came up, yeah, because we had a capacity of about 1,000, but I think we were getting like 500 people.
I think. Do you think there's I feel like there's got to be the way to convince people to once again start coming to the theater. I think everybody started getting so used to Netflix and Amazon Primes and just watching things and doing things at home. I would love to see this kind of like rebirth of people wanting to go to the theater, wanting to go and watch live acting, live singing, live dancing. Don't you think?
Janette, I think that will happen, and especially now that people have been in isolation. And when they've been in isolation for literally 3 months, people will be chomping at the bit to actually get to see a performance, a live performance.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say about pantomime, you know, that it's great to bring children to, because it's a first experience of being off tablets, of theatre, of live theatre, where they can scream and shout, you know, and be outrageously animated in the audience. And it's the first time they get to interact with people on stage. And I think that's so important, because hopefully those kids will then, you know, grow up and think, oh, I used to love pantomime, or I might go and see that show, or I might tempt them into the theatre. I don't think it needs that much encouragement. I just think it's just a lovely outing. It's just horribly expensive, I know that. But it's worth, I think, saving up for. I mean, checking out, you've just got to check out all the, you know, you can get half-price tickets sort of everywhere. Obviously, now it's impossible.
You don't have to go all the time, but if there's one that you know you want to watch, just, you know, save up what you want. Make sure you go out and go and see it.
Even if it's just one a year, you know, you get the most amazing experience from it. Because generally, all the shows that are on in the West End or in theatre talk about stuff that we all talk about at home, or stuff that you privately feel that you can't explain. And theatre is such a brilliant vehicle for teaching people about themselves, because you will recognize yourself in most of the characters, you know, when you go and see, you know, live shows. And the beauty about live theatre that makes it completely separate to film and TV and all of that is that it can't be edited, and it's completely new and different every single night. Well, you know, as a professional dancer and performer and actor yourself, that your performance is slightly different every single night. And I think that's brilliant, you know. So you can go and see, not that you're going to go in and see a terrible performance, you'll go in and see just a slightly different one, you know, and each performance is unique. And that's what's brilliant about it, because I love it. I love coming and saying, oh, I was there the night that the helicopter didn't come in and missile down and I had to do this. Or I was there when, you know, when the actor fell over. Or I was there when it was the most beautiful singing at the opera that you've ever heard, never to be repeated again. You know, it's those sorts of experiences that you can't replace.
You can't replace them.
You know, it's wonderful on film because you get to do take after take after take, and then the editor and the director
Makes
choose
it perfect.
the best one. Yeah, make it perfect.
Yeah.
Or not so perfect.
Is there a show that you would really, really love to one day do? I mean, I know you're very excited for Strictly Ballroom.
Oh, I can't wait. That's one of my favorites.
Is it one of your
I've been
favorites?
dying to get my teeth into. Out of that, it was Gypsy, but that's been done so well now by Melda Staunton that I can't possibly replicate that. I mean, that was on my hit list of all-time great musicals that I would love to do. Apart from that, new material, work on young people stuff, up and coming people, you know, because I have a lot of experience in the theatre, so I can bring a lot of that experience to new pieces and hopefully make them work for people. You know, that's,
I saw that you worked as assistant director in West Side Story. Now, they've recently redone West Side Story. And I am crossing all my fingers they bring it over to the West End because it looks sensational.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. It's been difficult with a show like West Side Story because there's a 50-year, I think, ban on anyone else doing it. So it had to be over that amount of time. There was some sort of complication with it. You know, it always had to be Jerome Robbins' choreography, which is fine and amazing. But, you know, it's nice to see someone else's interpretation of it, don't you think? And I think, I'm totally with you. I can't wait to see it. Very excited about a new production of it. I mean, we were lucky enough in Australia. That was my first show ever.
Really?
Yeah, when I was 17, I turned 18 on the job. It only lasted 2 weeks, mind you, but that was my first job ever in Melbourne, West Side Story, and we did a different version of it, and it was a very 80s punk rock sort of blonde hair sticking out, triple turns to the knee, all ripped clothing, very, very 80s version of it. But I don't know how they got around the rights for that because I looked after it for 4 years in this country. And
but they've done it and they've taken out I Feel Pretty. They took out that song.
Oh, fair enough.
and
some people love that song.
I know they changed a lot of the choreography, so I'm excited to see it. But anyways, I cannot wait to watch you do your thing with Strictly Ballroom. And I know Jason Gilkison is going to be working alongside with you, isn't he?
Yeah, I love him. He is one of the hottest choreographers. What he doesn't know about Born Latin, darling, is nobody's business. But, you know, he's turned into a really clever choreographer now, where he can cross over into the world of contemporary, which I love, into my world, if you like, musical theatre. And I think us two working on it together will be amazing.
And you two
Darling, what part can you play? Well, let's watch this space. Well, darling, I have been seeing that you've been releasing your own little Voce numbers, darling. And very good, might I add.
Thank you.
You're singing stuff.
I mean, I'm in isolation. This is the time to work on my voice and do other
no one's around, darling. You can shout.
No one's around. I can destroy only my own ears.
No, you've got a beautiful voice, darling. Absolutely gorgeous. Really great.
I cannot wait to see you again after all this is over. I really, really love you. You know how much I love you, and I just.
Darling, you and Ali Ash must come over.
We do. I'll bring the 3 more of these so that we have this.
Please do.
Anyways, give my love to Jonathan, okay? And please take care of yourself. And thank you so much for talking with me. I loved it.
Darling, it's lovely to see you and catch up.
It's so nice to see you.
We'll do this again.
We will do it again. Why not? We've got
I won't accidentally start my own chat, though, this time.
I love you. Take good care, okay?
You too.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you, gorgeous.